Hi everyone, Erin from the Impatient Gardener, and today I want to show you a few new to me plants I'm putting in my garden today. And interestingly enough, all of these plants are from the Southern Living Plant Collection, who partnered with me on this video. So what is a gardener in Zone 5, Wisconsin, doing with plants from the Southern Living Plant Collection? Well, guess what, you guys? They have plants that are hardy in our zone, and some very cool plants that you can also grow as annuals. So I thought I'd tell you about them. So the first one is this beautiful rose that you're seeing, and I just keep peering in it because there's the cutest little eastern gray tree frog that has been living pretty much in this rose more or less for the last couple of weeks, and he is not wanting to leave. And every time I try to sort of coax him to move on, he just is hanging out in there, and I'm afraid he's going to hop on my face. In any case, he's in there and he gets to stay. So this is the It's a Breeze ground cover rose. And this baby is hardy from zone 4 to zone 11, which is unbelievable coverage. And you know, anytime a rose is hardy to zone 4, I get very excited because even though I'm in zone 5, it's always nice to have that buffer. So here's the stats on this. Gets 2.5 to 3 feet high and 3.5 to 4 feet wide. So it is wider than it is tall, but and it's just going to be this beautiful sort of shrubby, beautiful thing that's going to fill in. And it has, as you can see, these sort of, now some of these blooms have fried a little bit in the sun as it's been waiting for me to plant it, but it's very much a sort of a cherry red, a very pinky red. And just covered in them. Now they're smaller flowers, but tons of them. So the overall look is going to be great. And I do appreciate ground cover roses because generally speaking, they're very easy care. So it's not like you have to, you don't have to baby them like you do with some other roses. So that's going to go right here in the garden. I've already dug a hole, and I actually put some compost and manure in the hole as well, just because the soil in this area of my garden is so sandy and light that I feel like a rose needs a little bit more bulk and nutrition than that. So it'll be really important for me to come back in here and mulch this really, really well too, to help retain as much moisture as we can in this area. Okay, so here's a look at that area. It's really going to be the centerpiece of this garden. This garden is planted mostly with pinks, so I think this reddish pink or a pinkish red will just tie in really well, and it'll be quite bright and beautiful over here. So continuing on this sort of pinky red theme, now we've got a hydrangea. This is called Heartthrob, which is such a good name for a plant. It's a Hydrangea Macrophylla, hardy zone 5 to 9, so hardy in my area, and it'll get 3 feet tall and wide. They listed it as a semi-dwarf hydrangea, and it just has these gorgeous reddish pink flowers. There's almost like a dusty rose quality to them, but in a good way. So this is not going to be something that's garish. I think it'll just blend in really nicely with the rest of the garden. I'm actually going to put this in a container because I sort of love the idea of growing this kind of in a place where it'll get more attention and it'll kind of be a focal point. So I'm going to put this in this container that's right behind me here. And this will get here, this is going to get a fair amount of sun, but not hot afternoon sun. And although often in warmer areas or areas to the south or warmer zones, a lot of times Hydrangea Macrophylla is something you want to think about in a part shade scenario. I'm able to, in my garden, really push the envelope on shade plants, and I'm often able to put them into a sunnier spot as long as they get enough water, because the sun just isn't as intense here as it is to the south. So that's why I think this is going to work. It is going to be shielded from the hottest part of the day. It's not far from the tricolor beach. So tricolor beaches want actually similar conditions. So that's why I think it's going to work over here. So I've already put fresh potting mix into this pot, and it's gonna go right in here, and I'll show you what it looks like. So you might notice that there's a few little purple tinged leaves on here, and that is because when I got this, I didn't really harden it off at all. I just sort of let it go into straight onto the patio where I've been keeping it. So it probably came out of a greenhouse. Don't worry about that. That's basically the equivalent of sunburn on your hydrangea leaves. So if you ever get a new hydrangea, and boy, I had way too much soil in this pot. If you ever get a new hydrangea and then when you get it, all of a sudden you get this kind of purple tinge to the leaves, don't worry about it. It's the equivalent of a sunburn, and it will outgrow that. I mean, it's obviously better if you avoid that, but okay, I think I need to make that a little lower though. I overdid it on the soil. I'm not out of practice this year, I guess. This is actually the first thing I've put in a container this year. There we go. Now I could come through and underplant this with a little bit of a little trailer, maybe some creeping Jenny or like Dichondra Silver Falls or something. For now, I'm just going to leave it like this because I kind of like the idea of just keeping this clean and simple here. Now, since this is a zone 5 plant, I can't leave it in this pot outside over winter. So I have always grown something in this pot that has to be protected in winter. So I've done a bunch of other videos about what I do, but basically I put these things in my unheated garage over winter, and then I pull them out and they're great, and then they just keep blooming on. Of course, if I planted this in the ground, I wouldn't have to worry about it since it's hardy in this area. So the next two plants I'm absolutely giddy about. This first one is Little Miss Figgy Fig. This is a dwarf fig, and I love it because it's got these small leaves that have great shape to them. So I think as a foliage plant, it's just gorgeous. It also came to me with 2 figs on it, which I love. Now this is only hardy from zone 7 to 10. However, I have to take any fig that I'm going to grow here in zone 5. I did a video about growing figs, but I'm going to have to overwinter them inside somewhere cool no matter what if I want to have my best chance of them actually producing figs. So any fig I bought would have to come inside. So it's really not a big deal. And since this one is a dwarf, it makes it that much easier to come in. I just can't tell you how much I think these leaves are just adorable. It actually has almost a tropical feel with these deeply lobed leaves. Now this would grow, and this would be for planting it in the ground, but in the ground 4 to 6 feet high and 3 to 4 feet wide, which is considerably smaller than most other figs. And pretty much it's just, you know, full sun, and you're going to get some beautiful figs from it. So this one I'm probably going to plant up in a smart pot. I haven't quite decided yet, but I have a little bit of time to do that because it's quite happy in the pot it came in for right now. Now let's talk about this baby. You guys, this is Senecio Skyscraper, and it's a succulent. You can see that by looking at it. It is, I think, one of the coolest plants I'm going to have in my garden this year. Now this could grow 2 to 3 feet high, and I can't tell you how many, I just can't stop thinking of ways you could use this. So first of all, just imagine this in the landscape as a great vertical accent, and then especially if you repeated this blue color or silvery blue color, say with like lavender or rosemary or even Artemisia. Just imagine that repetitive thing. Or you could do like a purple and silvery blue garden. It'd be so great. But I'm thinking containers for this one, you guys. So imagine, I mean, I just can't stop thinking of container combinations for this. The first place my head goes is to like a long trough. Imagine 3 of these lined up in a long trough. And of course you could fill in the bottom with just about anything. I mean, you could get really colorful and do like even like a purple petunia, or you could do something kind of understated and just kind of stick with a white theme. Or even a bright pink, I think would actually look really great with this. But this is such good vertical structure. You rarely find a plant with this much great vertical structure. So I'm just going to plant this one in a pot. So my mind is just racing with the combinations that you could do with this. So you could, of course, do like a little petunia or something like that. But I'm thinking in a pot, just as a single pot, you want this to really be the star. So you could do like your basic Dichondra Silver Falls. So you'd get that same color, you just have a different texture here, and then you just have this beautiful gray tone-on-tone look. In a similar vein, this is a helichrysum. This is a miniature one, so you would have just happen to have this one around. You could do either one of them, but this would be sort of that same silver on silver idea. You could also do something like a euphorbia, and that would give you sort of a white. You just do kind of it'd be sort of a white cloud all around it. Or you could go. I really like the idea, you guys, of doing a ground cover kind of thing, just so that this just stands up. I don't really want to mess with the beautiful structure of this. And so I thought this might work. This is just Corsican mint. So this is essentially a ground cover mint, and it does not get any taller than this, but it spreads and it will sort of drape over the edge of a pot a little bit. And I kind of like this texture. Now, I find that Corsican mint tends to get a little darker than what we're seeing in this plant. So if it gets a little darker, but I like this subtle contrast of a little bit of a different green with blue. So this is what I'm going to do. But I want to know what combination you guys would put with this plant. All right, there we go. Now, I have 3 of these little Corsican mints, and I know this looks a little underwhelming for the time being, but these are spreaders. They're a mint, so you know they spread. So we'll just stick them right on the edge there so that they do fill in and sort of, I just want them to ever so slightly come over the edge. That's one of the things I was thinking with the Dichondra Silver Falls, is that that's a plant that, grows long. So you would constantly have that trailing on the ground, or you'd be pruning it all the time, which maybe isn't the worst. The good news here is that if for some reason I decided to go with one of the other options for something to do around the base of this, I'm really only out 3 mints. Pretty easy to swap that out. Okay. All right, so this will fill in quickly, and I will show you how this pot looks, as well as all those other plants later in the summer, and we can kind of check in on them all. But this one, you guys, I'm excited about this one. So I want to know, leave me a comment and let me know what you would pair this plant with, or what you would do with this plant, because I think the options are just unlimited as to what you could do with this plant. So we'll see. Let me know what you think about this little dots of Corsican mint. I just knew, guys, had I bought 3 more, the pot would have looked pretty good right now. I just know it would have been way too much very soon. So we're planting for the long game here. All right, so that's it. Let me know what you think about all these plants, and which ones of these you could see using in your own garden, whether you are in a cold zone like me or maybe somewhere warmer. All right, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.